could flow through cryptos like Stellar XLM, and Zioncoin could benefit. Yes, people, you and I can benefit. But how am I deriving at that? How am I coming to that conclusion? Well, first, before all of that, please like, subscribe. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm, and I can keep delivering more and more content like this to you more frequently now with that aside. It's clear, people. Fundamentals are key. Now, we did a little bit of TA. We understood you need a combination of TA and fundamental analysis, along with understanding how to play the markets. Dollar cost averaging down, dollar cost averaging up, knowing where the floor is. This helps us to find the floor, okay? Now, what is happening fundamentally today that's so important? Well, we're hearing whispers, people, of SEC Chair Gary Gensler maybe resigning from in-house. Now, this news is breaking from Altcoin Daily. So really, it's only right that I put up what's been happening in terms of Gary Gensler's resignation. So you got to stick around for the juicy bits, get my take on what's happening here, and understand what the inner workings of the financial markets are. What the inner workings are, which maybe some of you never really knew about, and why Gary Gensler has deeply put his foot in this SHIT. And we understand how we derive at the fact that the SEC needs reforming. And actually, you know, major majority whips in Congress believe the SEC needs reforming. In any case, Altcoin Daily, give us the news. Truthers or rumors? Gary Gensler's abuse of the SEC's powers.
What you're hearing from the leaders of the regulatory organizations is if we're not losing cases, if we're not being pushed back on by the courts, we're not doing enough. Think about that for a second. That is a fundamental shift in how we as Americans view the role of the government. I don't want to be in a place where I know the government is going to bring cases they think they're going to lose. Imagine you're the person who is the subject of that case. Now, we're talking about corporations.
Yeah, to see if they can, and if they're not stopped, they're going to,
But this is an ethos now, which is, unless we're losing, we're not bringing enough cases.
What about the Ripple case, Jay?
That may be fine for private litigants against each other. But when you have the power of the state...
You think the SEC are going to win that?
You're supposed to only bring cases and only make rules that you think are going to pass judicial muster. Seeing a shift there, and I think we should think about whether that's appropriate or not. We can go into the details of each one of these cases or each one of these regulations, but at a 30,000-foot level, I think that's problematic.
So obviously very damning, because it's one thing for random investors like you, like me, to say Gary Gensler's unfair, he's abusing his power, but when the former SEC says this, I mean, that carries whole new weight. And let's remember, Gary Gensler's reign and alleged abuse of power is much more than crypto. The SEC is in charge of keeping investors safe, regulating financial markets more than crypto. And in this past interview on Fox Business, the United States stock market is rigged. Head of the SEC, Gary Gensler, confirms 90 to 95% of orders do not count anymore for pricing. We no longer have a market because nothing you do matters. Supply and demand does not exist.
Well over 90% of those trades go straight to the dark market, to a wholesaler that bought that order flow rather than competing trade by trade.
Short sellers have found a way to make sure that they can never lose by running everyone's order through dark pools so they no longer impact price. And here's how it's supposed to work. Normally, the more buyers a stock has equals the more buying pressure equals the price goes up. Selling pressure usually means stock price goes down. Short sellers lose money if the stock they're shorting increases in price. All that should be standard. The issue is, Bernie Madoff created a scam back in the day called payment for order flow.
Well, speaking of Bernie Madoff, who came up with payment for order flow?
Yeah,
right.
No, I understand, but
which lets them route everyone's order off exchange / through dark pools, and these orders no longer count to pricing, so prices can never increase. This ensures they can never lose.
Payment for order flow, as you mentioned, is a payment between a broker that a broker receives for your order flow. And there are inherent conflicts of interest there.
They are abusing the system so bad that 90 to 95% of the orders no longer count for pricing. And Gary Gensler confirmed this on national television 494 days ago, and still nothing has been done. Every day the market opens and they let you be robbed.
We're looking at the SEC as to how to facilitate and drive greater efficiency in this market so investors get a better deal. Payment for order flow, as you mentioned, is a payment between a broker that a broker receives for your order flow. And there are inherent conflicts of interest there. We're looking at how we can ensure greater competition. When you place a market order in the US, a market order at a retail platform, well over 90% of those trades go straight to the dark market, to a wholesaler that bought that order flow rather than competing trade by trade.
Liquidity
and that's
provider
what we're trying
or
to
market
think
maker.
through.
And again, this clip is from well over a year and a half ago, and still nothing has been done.
Okay, so what is this payment for order flow, PFOF? Well, we got to think about liquidity providers, market makers, and the brokers themselves. So the payment for order flow is actually that sort of in-between layer between the retailer, the broker, and a liquidity provider or the market maker. And as we've discussed before in our research into market making, AMM, liquidity providers, you sometimes get a fee, right? And I can't say with 100% certainty that that is what that fee is about, payment for order flow, but that sounds like it. And our research had concluded that actually these payments that liquidity providers get is good because it keeps the market liquid. Yes, there are granted potential repercussions of market manipulation, but we can always identify where this market manipulation is coming from, right? And then they can be brought to justice. So is it the mechanism itself that's the problem, or is it the organizations involved that is the problem? And I think that's key in understanding what proof payment for order flow is. Is it an issue or is it not? It's a bit like saying the gun is the killer and not the person behind it, right? In any case, altcoin daily. I think it's more
not enough. You know, if you look at the past 10 years, right, or the past 20 years, the SEC very rarely will send something and recommend it to the DOJ for prosecution. That 2008 financial crisis.
That's not true. I mean, we bring about 700 750 enforcement cases a year, and I can give you the exact figures, but a whole chunk of those are also joint criminal investigations.
Right. You know, with all the financial shenanigans that have gone over the years, the only person we've really brought to heel is Martha Stewart. And that's got to tell you something about just how tilted this thing is.
I've forgotten a little bit about Bernie Madoff, but...
Well, speaking of Bernie Madoff, who came up with payment for order flow?
Yeah.
Right.
No, I understand, but he did serve his time in jail and everything.
One guy and one woman. Generally, it seems like people don't go to jail for financial crimes. They pay fines.
I know this is a bit old, but John really should have pulled Gary up for that. Yeah, we brought in Madoff. Yeah, you find him, but after the whistleblower. I mean, this is hilarious. Why would he even bring that name up? And this is just reinforces the fact that the SEC needs reinforming because it's just not doing the job. Unless you get a whistleblower coming in to do the job free off their own back, you know, not forced by the SEC, they're not doing their job. Clearly, the SEC needs reforming. In any case, Nathan, show them what I mean.
Individuals. In order to minimize the risk of discovery of our activities and the potential threat of harm to me, my team, to our families, I submitted these reports to the SEC without signing them. Only a few key, trusted people at the SEC knew my name, and my name only, not those of my team. In order to compartmentalize the damage, if Mr. Madoff found out that we were tracking him, Mr. Madoff was already facing life in prison if he were caught, so he'd face little to no downside to removing whatever threat he felt we posed. In April 2008, I went to the SEC's Director of Risk Assessment with this case and got no response. I told the SEC exactly where to look, providing them with a long series of clear warnings that any trained investment professional would have immediately understood. Inexplicably, the SEC never acted upon those repeated and multiple warnings over a 9-year time span. The SEC is also captive to the industry it regulates, and it is afraid of bringing big cases against the largest, most powerful firms. Mr. Madoff was one of the most powerful men on Wall Street. He owned a prestigious brokerage firm. He and his brother held numerous top-level positions on the most influential industry association boards. Clearly, the SEC was afraid of Mr. Madoff. I gift-wrapped and delivered the largest Ponzi scheme in history to them, and somehow they couldn't be bothered to conduct a thorough and proper investigation because they were too busy on matters of higher priority. If a $50 billion Ponzi scheme doesn't make the SEC's priority list, then I want to know who sets their priorities. The incoming SEC chairwoman needs to come in and clean house with a wide broom. The SEC needs new senior staff because the current staff has led our nation's financial system to the brink of collapse. They ignored the rating agency scandals. They allowed the investment banks to engage and package and sell toxic subprime securities to investors. They ignored auction rate securities and allowed these toxic securities to be sold to investors. They ignored mutual fund market timing until embarrassed by state regulators into acting, and they ignored the Madoff Ponzi scheme. They haven't earned their paychecks, and they need to be replaced. The key tip-off, and it took me about 5 minutes to figure out that he was a fraud, so it took extensive time and research. I basically read his strategy description, and I knew that wasn't the source of his returns because then I looked at his, I knew right away by looking at his performance chart, and I wish I had a whiteboard and an easel here, but I don't, so I'm going to give you a hand signal, and I'm going to show you what his performance return line looked like. It was a 45-degree angle without any variation. It went in only one direction, up. Mr. Madoff was certainly one of the most powerful individuals on Wall Street. He had a respected broker-dealer arm. He traded a substantial percentage of the over-the-counter and New York Stock Exchange listed stock volume every day. And they just looked at his size and said, he's a big firm, and we don't attack big firms.
You have single-handedly diffused the American public of any sense of confidence in our financial markets if you are the watchdogs. You have totally and thoroughly failed in your mission. And now other people are investigating what you should have found out, and you're hiding behind, well, maybe we can't talk because someone else is looking at it. Well, you forfeited your right to investigate by not doing it, certainly not doing it properly or adequately. And now you're trying to tell us that because other people are looking at it, you're not going to tell us what's going on? Like hell you won't. What happened here? That's a question. Do we start with hear no evil, see no evil, or do no evil? Take your pick.
Now you see, it's clear the SEC just, as a regulatory body are incompetent doing the job with the frameworks that they have. And I think it's clear that Gary Gensler has done nothing. He wants to, to try and state that it's this payment for order flow set about by Ernie Madoff, and it was the fact that they brought him down when clearly, no, he wasn't going to. It's clear, this payment for order flow, I can't see it being a problem. It needs regulating properly, and the regulators were just not doing the job properly. That's what's clear. They didn't want to do the job, and that is the clearest thing as daylight. In any case, Altcoin Daily, let us know what's going on with this truma or rumor. Stick around.
And with all that now in consideration, the news today is this. In a stunning revelation, an anonymous official from the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has reportedly disclosed that Gary Gensler, chairman of the SEC, has submitted his resignation following an internal investigation. In a direct quote from that SEC source, they say, Gary Gensler has resigned from his position as chairman of the SEC following an internal investigation into alleged misconduct. The details of the investigation are confidential, but the decision to step down underscores the seriousness of the findings. In a direct quote from another anonymous industry insider, they say, the resignation of Gary Gensler in the wake of an internal investigation is deeply concerning. It calls into question the integrity and effectiveness of the SEC under his leadership. The financial industry relies on the SEC to ensure fair and transparent markets, and any allegations of misconduct at the top level erode investor trust.
And there you have it. Thanks for that, breaking that to me, Altcoin Daily. And really, if you think about it, it's clear why these rumors could be true, because there's so much weight now on Gary, you know, with this, the way the actual SEC operates itself, okay, the powers that they have, perhaps the way they operate, clearly they're not strong enough to be able to deal with these big institutes, these big businesses, big corporations. Okay, they don't want to take the case on. Maybe there's a bit of something or other happening there. Who knows? In any case, we can see and understand that Gary himself is staunchly against crypto for whatever reason, right? Before he was quite crypto positive, friendly, before he was a SEC of the SEC, still maintained that XRP was a security, or was likely to be a security, maintains that to this day from MIT, from when he was back in MIT teaching his courses. But when we think about where things are at the moment, and the fact that, you know, Ethereum was a security, or still is, you know, from back at its inception, right, when they did an ICO, that's clearly a security, right? When you think about that, the position that he's in, you know, from his peers, Jay Clayton, the rest of them, you know, it makes sense why this guy needs to resign, because we have the Congress stepping in as well, saying, look, you're not doing the job, you're not giving us the information that we want. In any case, I think Gary for crypto is over. I think it's goodbye Gary, hello trillions, you know, for the blockchain industry. Clearly America needs to step forward with this in the industry and support the whole industry, just like we're doing over here in the UK, and by the sound of it, the rest of the world, right? With that said, if you want to find out more about what happened with Gary Gensler in a Congress, the congressional hearing, check out the video in a link. Check out the video at the end for a re-education on what's going on with Bitcoin, what Bitcoin's all about. Banking on Bitcoin Revisited. I'm Nathan, aka Nathan of Zion. Smash the Zioncoin up there, like and subscribe, and check out these videos. Banking on Bitcoin Revisited and congressional hearing. Have a great day. Take care now.